How did the peaceful nation of Ecuador turn into a narco-war zone? The answer lies in the rise of Mexican cartels. This South American nation has seen a dramatic escalation in violence and drug trafficking as Mexican cartels, particularly the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation cartel, muscle their way in. These powerful organizations are battling for control over the lucrative cocaine trade, causing the homicide rate to skyrocket. But it's not just the increase in murders that's concerning. Children are being enlisted into the world of crime, trained to be assassins due to lenient prison sentences. Local gangs, once small-time players, are now key pawns in this deadly game, working for the Mexican cartels to transport cocaine through the country. The port city of Guayaquil has become a major hub for drug trafficking, with large quantities of cocaine being seized. But the authorities are struggling. Limited resources and capacity mean that many containers pass through unchecked, with the cartels finding new ways to hide their illicit cargo. With civilian firearm ownership now legal and a mass exodus of Ecuadorians heading toward the US border, the situation is dire. The rise of Mexican cartels in Ecuador has turned once peaceful streets into battlegrounds, and the nation into a pivotal chess piece in the global drug trade. The assassination of Fernando Villavicencio, a vocal critic of the cartels, marked a turning point in this crisis. An iconic figure in the opposition group Movimiento Construye, Villavicencio was a staunch opponent of the growing cartel influence in Ecuador. His vocal criticism brought him into the crosshairs of Adolfo Macías Villamar, known as Fito, the leader of Los Choneros and a key ally of the Sinaloa cartel in Ecuador. This culminated in Villavicencio's tragic assassination, a chilling message to those who dare to stand against the cartels. In the aftermath, Christian Zurita stepped up to fill the void left by Villavicencio. He continued to shed light on the cartel's influence, highlighting their role in arming and financing local criminal gangs. The cartels, Zurita pointed out, were not just shadowy overseers, but active players fueling the violence in Ecuador. But the situation took a turn for the worse when Fito managed to escape from a prison in Guayaquil. His escape unleashed a new wave of violence across the country. Bombings, kidnappings, and armed assaults became the new norm, a clear indication of the power and reach of these cartels. Villavicencio's assassination was a wake-up call, but with Fito on the loose, the violence only escalated. Today, Ecuador is gripped by an unprecedented level of violence, with Mexican cartels exploiting the situation. Bombings, armed assaults in shopping centers, kidnappings of law enforcement personnel, and even attacks on television stations have become the disturbing new norm. This wave of violence erupted following the escape of Fito, a key figure in the drug trafficking network who operated his illicit actions from a luxurious cell in a Guayaquil prison. The state, led by President Daniel Noboa, is grappling to regain control. Prisons, once considered places of punishment and reform, have transformed into hubs of illegal activities. The escape of Fito threw a wrench into Noboa's efforts to regain control, sparking a fresh wave of violence that the state is struggling to contain. In response, Noboa declared a state of internal armed conflict, mobilizing the armed forces and police throughout the country. He identified close to 20 drug trafficking organizations, including Los Choneros and Los Lobos, as terrorist organizations threatening the nation's security and sovereignty. However, with the state weakened and lacking strategic direction, the situation is ripe for exploitation by the Mexican cartels. As the state struggles to contain the violence, the question remains, can Ecuador reclaim its peace? The severity of the situation demands immediate action, but what does that entail? The path forward is fraught with challenges, not least of which is the skepticism surrounding Mexico's willingness to cooperate. Mexico's relationship with the political group of former President Rafael Correa in Ecuador raises questions about its commitment to helping curb the influence of the cartels. International cooperation is crucial. Powerful drug cartels do not respect national borders, and their operations have global implications. Therefore, a united front is essential in this fight. Strategic measures must be implemented, measures that cut off the cartels' resources, disrupt their operations, and bring their leaders to justice. Meanwhile, investigations into the assassination of Villavicencio continue. It's a stark reminder of the stakes at hand, a symbol of the audacity of these cartels. The alleged involvement of Los Lobos, an ally of the Jalisco New Generation cartel in the planning and execution of the crime, underlines the urgent need for action. As Ecuador grapples with this crisis, the world watches. The fight against the cartels is not just Ecuador's fight, but a global one.